Hello and welcome back to another video. My name is Stuart Ironguts from Account 1 and today we have a Gargants Battle Tome review. In my mind it's been a long time coming. The limitations of the old book are definitely there. So it'll be interesting to see what Games Workshop has to offer. An update to this extremely problematic faction, I would say. Just before we get into the video, I would encourage you to check out the Patreon in the description. I'm doing some Warhammer coaching and producing some other content over there. We're really starting to build a nice community. Thank you very much to everyone who's signed up recently. And yeah, just check it out. The link will be in the description. So, today we have the Gargants Battle Tome review. And I've called it Into the Bin Zone because, well, I think in my mind, really, this book asked this question. Alright, so I reckon they all sat down in a room and they went, okay, guys, we got to do something about Gargants, okay? Like, this army doesn't feel like giants. This army feels like waiting at a bus stop, okay? Everyone, you just pull up to the bus stop with your Gargants and you just sit there looking at your watch until you win the game, alright? We can't be having that. So, we want to make it feel like giants. So how do we do that? Well, we got to give them some goofy rules. Okay, we got to give them some goofy rules. So we need to make a bin book. Okay, it has to be a bin book, but can it be good too? That's the question. All right. So what I mean by that is we'll give them some horrible rules, some rules you read and you're just like, who in their right mind would ever do this? Who would come up with such a horrific rule to subject the Age of Sigmar community to? But there's got to be some light at the end of the tunnel, right? There's got to be some good rules in here. And there definitely is, okay? Spoiler alert, there definitely is. Okay. So, just to give some history of the Sons of Behemat, in terms of a little bit of a family history here, right? Okay, so historically speaking, the book only has 4 units, right? So, that's something quite interesting. They've added 2 in this new book, so we've gone up to 6. Big. Huge, one would say. Mega, one might say. Okay, so now we have 6 units, but historically there's only 4, and well, the best of them was by far the Gatebreaker, and then I think closely next to each other were the Warstomper and the Kraken. It sort of depended over the years on the points costing, as well as, you know, the battle plans that are out, the current GHB we're on. They're really solid, and then the Mancrushers were quite bad, like really quite bad, especially when they came out. They've slightly improved in stock over the years. Like Bounty Hunters was a nice little thing for them to get, so at least they had some role in the army, but historically they've been just awful. So it's really, the armies that you were seeing were like 2 Gatebreakers, 2 Warstompers, or like 2 Gatebreakers, a Warstomper, and a Kraken, something like that. But definitely the Gatebreakers were at the apex of the Gargant hierarchy. Okay? So, I think this book really tried to deal with this. Okay? How are we going to make Mancrushers good? How are we going to give them an identity in this book? Okay? Now, some of you might be thinking, why the hell do we need Mancrushers? Okay? Like, they're these old goofy models. We have these fantastic new Gargant sculpts. Why do we need Mancrushers? Well, the reason for that is, if we didn't have Mancrushers, the illusion of choice that is present in this book would be gone, and we would simply have 4 units to pick between. And if Games Workshop has to make 4 units the same power level, I think that's quite a difficult task, to be honest. So that's one of the main reasons. You know, you got to have levels in your army. You can't just have like an army where everything costs the same, does the same. Okay, so they want this smaller unit to be present in the army. Okay, but the role is not quite there at the moment. So let's see what they've done in this book. Okay, so I want to keep this question in the back of my mind as I'm looking through this book. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to get into the allegiance abilities. Now, there is not a lot here. Okay, there's really not a lot. So the first thing is Mightier makes Rightier. Okay, a bit of a taunt to the Ogre book, which is called Might makes right. Yeah, so Mightier makes Rightier. Okay, so Mancrusher Gargants count as 10. Okay, so that's the same as before. And Megas start off at 20, which is the same as before, but they do deteriorate. Okay, and as they get lower, they head towards 12 wounds. Now, I don't have the wound chart printed out anywhere in this presentation, but you can go look it up yourself. But I mean, it's quite lenient. But yeah, if you got a mega-gargant that's almost dead, it's not going to count for 20 models. It's going to count for 12 models, okay? So just keep that in mind. All right, and then we have Lord and Master. So the sub-factions in Sons of Behemat are determined by which mega-gargant variant is your general. So if you have a Gatebreaker general, you're going to be in Breakers. If you got a Warstomper general, you're going to be in Stompers. If you got a Kraken Eater mega-gargant, you're going to be in Takers. And if you've got a Beast Smasher mega-gargant, you're in Smashers, okay? Now, the only one that's there that doesn't make sense in terms of, like, name of the Gargant and then the actual name is Takers. But, yeah, generally, they're related to the actual name of the mega-gargant variant. But he's got to be your general, and then with him as your general, you get access to the sub-faction abilities, okay? Pretty straightforward. All right, and then they've decided to give the Sons of Behemat players wrestling finishes, okay? So these are monstrous actions that can only be used by mega-gargants, okay? Right, now the first one is like a grapple. So he, like, you know, he puts his enemy in the clinch. And basically what happens here is you pick one enemy monster within 3, and on a 3-up, both the user, so the mega-gargant, and whatever you target have strike last in the next combat phase. Okay, pretty useful if you're looking to gangbash a unit, okay? You know, you can go in with, like, 3 mega-gargants on the same unit. One of them grapples, and the other is just go to pound town on him, okay? But even if you don't, on your turn, right, you're going to get to pick who goes first in the strike last phase, okay? So in the normal combat phase, you're going to go backwards and forwards, and then when it gets to the strike last phase, because it's your turn, you will pick first, even if you've already had a unit, you know, go before that. So the classic example would be like, let's say both you and your opponents have 3 units in combat, okay? But it's your turn. So you go, your monster, then their unit, and then maybe your other monster, which wipes out a unit, okay? And then it's your opponent's turn to pick, but they can't pick anything. So the normal combat phase is finished, and we go to the strike last phase, okay? And although you just went, because it's your turn, and you pick at the start of the strike last phase, you get to pick, okay? So you can get, like, some, like, neat little double activation thing going on there, okay? Some fringe cases and stuff like that. But overall, like, a pretty good ability. A 3-up's pretty unreliable, but that's this book, okay? You're just going to have to deal with it, all right? If you didn't like rolling a 3-up for Raw, if you didn't like that, deciding the whole game, okay, then you've got, like, 6 other abilities that now do that, okay? So just get used to it, right? Okay? Alright, Earth-Shaking Roar. This one kind of sucks. You pick an enemy unit with a wounds characteristic of 1 or 2 within 3, and you roll 2d6. For each point that exceeds their bravery, 1 model in that unit flees. That's, yeah, it's just alright. Like, against low bravery, low wounds stuff, you might kill, like, 3 of them or something. But your opponent picks which models flee, so you can't, like, get command models or something. This is kind of just alright, okay? Alright, and then the Colossal Slam, which is definitely my favorite, is you pick one enemy monster within half an inch, and on a 3-up, you can set it up again within half an inch of the user, and then the monster suffers D3 mortals, but the user is -1 to hit. Now, this is great, because, you know, like, often monsters have gigantic bases, and the Gargant himself has a gigantic base, okay? So you can do stuff like, maybe you have one Gargant who's already in combat with something, and you got your other Gargant somewhere else on the board, okay? You can always just, like, run them forwards, like, as fast as you can. Everything only moves 10 in this army, but you could move them 16 inches forward. You can't run a charge, but it's okay, because your mate's going to do a suplex. He's going to suplex the enemy monster back into your own monster, and you're going to get to maybe grapple him with the other monster. So you suplex him, and then the other guy's grappling him, like putting him in a choke slam, okay? So we're full on WWE style monstrous actions army now. But yeah, some fun stuff you can do. Now, what I want to see someone do, okay, this is the big play, boys, the big play. Okay, so you have an incarnate, okay? He's going to get nerfed, but let's put that aside. You got an incarnate, okay? And he's gone wild, so he's an enemy unit. And you've stuffed it up, okay? You stuffed it up. He's in combat with one of your mega-gargants. This is a disaster. But what you decide to do is you decide to Colossal Slam the incarnate. And you Colossal Slam him, and you suplex him into your opponent, okay? And you set him up within half an inch of your mega-gargant, okay? but base to base with your opponent. So then your opponent is closer, so your Incarnate can pile in, away from your mega-gargant, be in combat with the opponent, and your mega-gargant's safe. That's the play. I want to see someone do that. I want to see someone build an army around doing that. That's what I want to see. But yeah, like, tons of stuff you can do with the Colossal Slam. Obviously, since everything has such big bases, like both the user and the opponent, you get heaps of room with it. Really useful, but again, it's on a 3-up, so swingy. And no, there's no like artifacts or command traits to boost this. They would all be amazing if you could, because this is awesome. Now, what I haven't mentioned is, after you set them up, the enemy monster suffers D3 mortal wounds, but then the user is also -1 to hit. So just keep that in mind. Like, you know, obviously he burns a bit of energy suplexing a chimera over your head, so that's why -1 to hit. Yeah, but definitely a strong monstrous action. I'm definitely into that one. Okay, cool. So let's talk about mega-gargants, alright? Because that's really what this book is about. I mean, they're trying to make it about Mancrushers, but we all want to play with mega-gargants, okay? That's, if we're watching this video, we're a mega-gargant fan, okay? Alright? So, we're going to talk about the generic profile, alright? Because if you look at a mega-gargant's war scroll, there's like 100 rules, and it's not clear what's actually different between the mega-gargants, okay? So these are the rules that are common to all mega-gargants now. Okay, so first of all, with the exception of one of them, they all have the same hands and feet profile. Okay, so you got the Almighty Stomp, which is 3-inch range with 2 attacks, 3+, 3+, -2 rend, D3 damage. Okay, and then we got the Death Grip. They should say 3-inch range. 3-inch range, 1 attack, 3s, 2s, minus. This should be -3 rend. Sorry, D6 damage. Okay, so. Yeah, I mean, pretty whatever profiles, but they got some special rules, as we'll see later, okay? Alright, now, Longshanks, this has been slightly improved, okay? So, when a mega-gargant makes a normal move, so still only just normal moves, you can't do it with charge or retreat or anything else like that, okay? You can pass over other models that are not monsters, and parts of terrain less than 4 inches the same way the unit can fly, okay? Now, the problem with the way that this is worded is that endless spells and invocations, etc., are not models in the core rules, okay? So the way this is worded now, it seems like you can't pass over endless spells with these guys, which is obviously not great. Now, the thing is that, you know, obviously endless spells and that now don't actually have like a hitbox, like you can just move over them, but there's like some of them that do. Like, for example, the Firewall from Fireslayers, you can't like move over it unless you have fly, right? So that's really problematic for these guys. Like, putting a Firewall and a choke against Sons of Behemat could be really strong. But the terrain thing slightly improves it, right? Because instead of having to like look for the highest point on a terrain, it's just, you just measure the part that you're moving over, and if it's less than 4 inches, then don't worry about it, okay? Which is great, like super good. Okay, so that's Longshanks. Then we got a rule called Sons of Behemat. Come on, guys, come up with a better name. That's the name of the battle type. We can't call her. Anyway, yeah. Okay, so instead of instant death killing a mega-gargant, which would obviously be a tragedy, and Behemat would indeed not be very happy about that, it just does D6 mortal wounds. Okay, nice. Obviously needed. Okay, Terror. This one's changed. So it used to be -1 bravery, but now it's you can't receive Inspiring Presence command while you're within 3 inches of mega. Nice. That's exactly what this army needs, right? Like, your opponent has a big squad of expert conquerors. Your big mega-gargants can't be in bounty hunters. So how am I going to kill them? Well, maybe Battle Shock is the way to do it. Okay? So this is really a nice boost that they've got this. You no longer have to like put in Horrorghast with an Arcane Tome and like hope it works. This just work. Alright? Nice. Big fan. Okay, we got Timber. So, yeah. If the mega-gargant model's slain, you roll off. Winner picks a point 5 inches away, and each unit within 3 that's not a mega-gargant takes D3 mortals. Whatever. It's a little consolation prize sometimes. Crushing Charge. After your mega-gargant makes a charge move, you roll for each enemy unit within 1. On a 2-up, they take D3 mortal wounds if they're a monster, and otherwise they take D6. Okay, nice. It's every unit. That's the good part about that one. But of course, remember, with Longshanks, you can't move over units when you charge, so just keep that in mind, okay? Death Grip. Okay, so this has changed. It used to be reroll of 1s against a monster to hit, okay? But now it's you just roll 2d6 for the damage characteristic against a monster, and you just pick one of the rolls, okay? Nice. It's actually not picked the highest, so if for some reason you don't want to kill the monster, then you could pick the lower one, okay? And then we got Almighty Stomp. You just get +1 to hit against enemy units with a characteristic of 3 or less. That's worse because it used to just be if they weren't a monster, you get real ones to hit. But, I mean, +1 to hit is better than real ones to hit, but not if you already have all-out attack, okay? So this is kind of alright. Okay, so let's talk about one of the new War Scrolls, King Brodd, okay? Yeah. Okay, now, he is a War Master in Sons of Behemat army, even if he's not chosen to be the general. And this is not actually a special rule in his War Scroll, but I've just made this up. So basically, he counts as like 5 more models at his top bracket than the other Sons of Behemat guys. And like 25 is a really nice amount to count as, because it means if your opponent has a unit of 20 dudes on there, then you can actually just outscore them straight away, okay? Now, there used to be something called Taker's Tribe, right? I mean, there still is, but there used to be 30 models, right? Your big mega-gargants would count as 30 models, and that always felt a bit too much. Like, you kind of want it to be like 20 models, and then just a few more models to account for, like, you don't want to draw, so you don't want to have 20 versus 20. And then also, like, if your opponent has one hero model on there that's adding 2, there might be 22. So 25 is a really nice amount for just taking an objective off your opponent without having to interact, so I really like that, okay? Also, great in the mirror, because, if your opponent has a mega-gargant on the objective, you just move this guy on and he's going to take it, okay? Cool. So, he has a couple special rules. Again, you'll notice, like, for the mega-gargants, there's actually not that many rules on the War Scrolls aside from the generic ones that I've talked about. So, even this special character guy is 580. He doesn't have that many rules, okay? Yeah, now I'll just quickly talk about his melee profile. So he's not like amazing in melee. He has this obelisk of something Tor. I didn't write the whole name on there, but it's 3-inch range, 4 attacks, 3s to hit, 3s to wound, -2 rend, 5 damage. So the 2 bits there that I think hurt me a little bit are the -2 rend and the 3 up to wound. Those are a little rough. You'd rather it be -3 rend wounding on a 2. It actually makes those 2 things make quite a big difference, because it's not really a way to buff the wound value like there is the hit value. And the rend is kind of low-ish for this kind of profile with 5 damage. So he's not amazing in combat. We'll see in the damage comparison later. He's kind of just all right compared to the other Gargants. So he's more of a utility piece. Now, the other thing that's different about him is he has 40 wounds instead of the 35 that the other mega-gargants have. And he's also got Bravery 9, okay, instead of Bravery 7, and for some reason the Beast Smasher has 8. So that's his profile. It says special rules. He's got Creepers. So in the charge phase, first time an enemy monster within 3 is picked out to carry a monstrous rampage, you roll a dice. And if the roll is equal to greater than the creeper value on the damage table, which starts at a 2+, they can't do a rampage. Okay, so 2+, you stop your opponent from doing a monster rampage. Nice. It does bracket significantly. I think it goes up to a 5+. Yeah, so it does bracket a lot, but very useful ability. And the bracketing doesn't matter so much because most of the time you're going to use it is when you're just gone in. So he's probably going to be like not that damaged, or when your opponent's coming at you with a monster, stuff like that, okay? Alright, now the big part about him is that he is a priest, okay? So he is the arbiter of the truths of the giant in the sky that is Behemat, and, well, he can do some prayers. Now, they're answered on a 3+, all of these, but you add 1 if he's slain a monster that battle, which is horrifically unlikely, but if it does, then nice. You want to search out for some mystical terrain with this guy, because he doesn't have a ward save, and also it'll give him +1 to this prayer. So very useful to find some mystical terrain. Okay, now the options for his prayers are +2 move to Sons of Behemat until the end of the turn. That's whatever. Each Sons of Behemat unit heals D3. Decent, but also kind of whatever. And the big one is +1 rend for the main weapons, okay? So his obelisk would go up to -3 rend. It's like the main weapons, so like the clubs on the Mancrushers, the big flail on the Gatebreakers, they all get an extra rend. So the Gatebreaker will go up to rend 4, the Smasher will go up to rend 4 on his big club, the Titanic Boulder Club will go to rend 2, the Mancrushers will go to, rend 3, and the Mancrushers will go to rend 2, so quite useful. So My rating for this guy is like a 4 out of 5. Like he's like just a solid unit. Like you're not paying that much points to get 5 extra wounds, a bit extra bravery, and War Master, and also the extra counting on objectives. Like I feel like those things together might even just justify the points price, because all of those are kind of like a I don't know, what would it be, like 20% improvement or something, right? But then we got these 2 other rules that are quite useful, especially the prayers. So I think he's just a solid unit. I think you're going to be hard pressed to not take him. There's like a couple situations where I can imagine in the list building process you might not, but usually you have the points to take him. So I think he's really strong. Okay. All right. So next we have the other new guy, which is the Beast Smasher mega-gargant. Okay. Who's got the Menhir Club, which is 3 attacks, 3s to hit, 2s to wound, -3 rend, 5 damage. The Stomp, which is 2 attacks, 3s to hit, 3s to wound, -2 rend, D3 damage. And you know what the Death Grip does. So those are all the same. It's just the club that's different, right? So it's 3 attacks, 3s, 2s, -3, 5 damage, which is nice. Okay, so compared to Brodd, we've lost 1 attack, but we've gained a wound and a rend. Okay, so kind of good against high armor. He is 35 wounds, but for some reason he's 1 extra bravery than the other mega-gargants. I don't know why. You get an extra bravery if you're a new model, apparently. No cynical things saying there, but okay. So then we got the rest of his war scrolls. So Beast Breaking Strike. So when he's fighting an enemy monster, you can elect to put it all on red. Okay, so this is one of those rules where I was saying, like, this is complete insanity. If you do, the Menhir Club goes to 1 attack, which you can't add to. You can still like boost the, to hit with +1 to hit or whatever. But you can't add attacks, which there is a way to do, but you can't. And it changes the damage characteristic from 5 to 5d6. Okay, but you have to target a monster with that. Is that statistically better than normally attacking? It depends. It depends on what that question is. And there are some situations where you might consider doing this. Generally, I would say you shouldn't. But if you're in one of those situations where the game is looking pretty bleak, and you need a high variance way out of the game, then this is the way to do it, right? Because obviously 5d6 on average is only a little bit better than 15, okay, which is the normal damage of the Menhir, right? If you get all 5d6 through, on average, it's going to be like 17.5 damage, right? Which is a little bit better, but obviously it could range up to a total of 30 damage. So you have the potential to like just massively one-hit something. But overall, normally attacking is going to have a better result. Just on average. It's just this adds like that extra bit of range. Like, let's say your opponent has like 25 wounds left on a monster, and you're looking at your profile and you're going, I don't have 25 damage, but you need to do 25 damage, then this is what you go for. You put it all on red, all right? This is when you got a massive mortgage, you've got $100 in your bank account, and you need to pay the mortgage off. So what you do is you go down to the horses race, and then you ask, can I enter a dog? And you bet on the dog. All right? That's what this is, all right? I don't know if Lucky can do it, but if he can do it, you're going to win big, all right? That's what this is, okay? Cool. So, his other ability is Behemoth Brawler, which is quite nice. If he's within 3 of enemy monsters, you can do 2 monstrous rampages instead of 1. But these have to be different and target an enemy monster. Yeah. Now, quite good for, like, with this guy, you can do, like, a suplex and then a grapple. So he's got some MMA training here. He can do both. He's got the good grapple game, and he's got a bit of a wrestling background as well. So, yeah, like, this guy is obviously designed to be good at killing monsters, but his damage is just quite good in general, even though it's a bit swingy. I can't give him any more than a 3 out of 5, just because, like, for 520 points, it's a steep price tag for sure. But, depending on the meta, like, if we see lots of, like, Stonehorns or something like that, once the Ogre Mortribe's book comes out, I don't know if people are going to be running cows in the Lumineth book, but if they do, then, this could be quite good. I like that it adds a bit of flavor to the book because it's a slappy unit like the Gatebreaker, but it's a bit more specialized. Yeah, so pretty decent, like a 3 out of 5 in my mind. Okay, so next. Apologies, I think the Death Grip is wrong on all these. It's supposed to be rend 3, okay? Yeah, I'll probably fix that later. Okay, so we got the Warstomper and mega-gargant, who in my mind is the best of the generic mega-gargants, okay? Because nothing has changed really with this guy. Yeah, so if you know what he did last time, it's what he does now. His Titanic Club, basically, you count the number of models enemy models within 3, and you add 4 for every monster, and it caps at 10, and that's how many attacks you have. And it's 3s, neg 2, rend 2 damage, pretty good, like 20 damage. So, like, more than the last guy already, but the wound characteristic is lower, and the rend is lower. But because it's damage 2 and 10 attacks, it takes Flaming Weapon excellently, okay? So this guy's really good with, like, buffs, okay? This guy takes buffs amazingly. But if he doesn't have buffs, he can still do, like, pretty decent damage. He's just, like, a good, like, workhorse unit, okay? And then Hurl Body has been nerfed slightly. It used to be any point in the combat phase. Now it's after he makes a Powerwind move. You pick one enemy model within 3, and if the roll is equal or greater than double that model's wounds, it's slain. You get +2 to this at his top bracket, but that brackets. And also, on a 4+, you can pick an enemy unit within 12, and on a 4-up, you deal mortal wounds equal to the slain model's wound characteristic. So this guy is really solid, really good with Flaming Weapon. I think you're going to take him in every army, 4 out of 5. Just good, all right? I think him and Brodd, I'm just starting with that, and then we'll work out what the rest we're doing. So, really solid. Okay, the Gatebreaker. So, I was saying he was the best before. Is he the best now? No. Wow, this guy is not good. Alright, so what's happened? Well, the main change here, his shooting is unchanged, but the Crusher Flail, which used to be 10 attacks, 4s, 3s, neg 3, rend 3 damage, is now 6 attacks, so lost 4 attacks. And he's also lost the command trait, which you could buff it to 12 attacks, okay? And it's still forced to hit, 3s to wound, neg 3 rend 4 damage, okay? So it's gone from a total of 30 damage to 24, and it's even swingier than it used to be. And, yeah, he's basically gained almost nothing for this. So the new ability he has is Pulverizing Strike, which is when he attacks, you can decide to put it all on blue. And if you do, instead of attacking with this model's melee weapons, you can pick an enemy unit within 3 of it and roll a dice. And on a 4+, jeez Louise, that unit takes 46 mortal wounds. Okay, great effect, obviously, but I mean, at least with the other guy before, it's like, even if you miss with the one attack, at least you have, like, the Stomp and the Death Grip. But with this guy, it's instead of attacking. Now, when would you use this? Okay, let's think about a scenario. Because there's a couple of them, okay? So, I think in my mind, the greatest example of where you would use this is if your opponent has extreme save stacking, okay? So he is rend 3, but if your opponent has a +4 to save, which Vanguard can definitely do, then this will be better, okay? Because you break through it, and then they're just on the shrugs, and, 46 mortal wounds, if it goes off, that's going to be, 14 mortal wounds, right? Pretty good. You're going to kill probably 2 Vanguard with that. So that's way better than attacking, okay? But it's on a 4-up. So, again, it's one of those variance things. Another situation I can think of is against Nighthaunt. Let's say the Nighthaunt player charges you, gives you -1 to hit. You've used all that attack somewhere else, so this guy's going to be hitting on 5s with the Crusher Flail. They have a 4-up Ethereal save, so the rend 3 doesn't mean anything. They have 2 Krulgast Cruciators there, giving you -2 damage, so it goes down to 2 damage. You're going to do no damage at all. You're going to do 0 damage, okay, against Nighthaunt. You might get 1 attack through, then they're going to have a 5-up ward. It's not going to work, alright? In that situation, 46 mortal wounds is obviously amazing, alright? It's way better than attacking with this guy. So, it is a bin rule, but it has its applications. Now, a smart player will know when to use this, and it's going to be the right decision, but a newer player will just do it for lols. And that's great. And I appreciate that they've seen both angles of this. I think that's good design for the Gargants, okay? And then the other rule he has is Smash Down. He gets +1 to his flail damage if attacking an enemy unit in cover or garrisoning their terrain feature. Easy to play around, of course. And if you carry out the Smash to Rubble Monstrous Rampage, each enemy unit within 3 of the terrain feature takes D3 mortal wounds on a 2-up, which is not bad because, like, if you're playing on a battle plan with sorry, not battle plan, but a battlefield with a lot of defensible terrain features, like your tournament pack has that, then that's could be quite good to just kind of catch your opponent off guard and do some mortal wounds. Pretty decent against like Seraphon if you manage to blow up the pyramid. Like you can make them roll that dice to see if the model dies, and on the one they do, and then if they don't, then they take these this D3 mortal wound damage. So I mean he's okay, but for me the killer is still the 4-up to hit on the Mancrusher Flail. It means it can only ever go to a 3-up, and now that it's 6 attacks, it's like it's just the swingiest thing in the world. And the average damage with no buffs is so bad. I have to give this guy a 2 out of 5. It's just not. It's not good, man. It's not good. It's not good. All right, cool. Okay, another one a bit down in the dumps is the Kraken-Eater mega-gargant. Okay, so this guy hasn't lost damage, but I mean, it just became swingier and I guess in a way more resistant to damage debuffs, but it's 4 attacks, 3 streaks, -2 rend damage 4. It's just so like swingy and crappy. It's not good, man. But that's what it should be, okay? Because Gargants are supposed to be like horrifically inaccurate, but which like they should lop off your head when they hit you with like a massive shipwrecker club, right? So it should be damage 4, but it's still not good. For 490 points, that attack profile is a complete joke. So this guy's not a fighter, really. Now he's got a couple abilities. So the net, after he passes in, you pick D3 models within 3. You roll a dice. If it's double that model's wound characteristic, they're slain. You pick the model, obviously, so like you can pick out command models with this. But the fact that you can't roll more than once for the same model, because you have to like pick D3 models and then roll them all like separately, means that it's actually pretty unlikely if they're over 1 wound that you're going to be able to do it. Because like if it's if they're 3 wounds or something, it'll be a 6. It's all right, but it's a bit swingy for sure. And it's definitely not as good as like doing it any time in the combat phase. Because breaking coherency doesn't mean that much, because your opponent will just remove the models to like deal with it later. So yeah, that's the situation. Okay, and then obviously this guy kicks objectives. You can only do it with 1 Kraken-Eater, with the way that's worded. And you pick an objective you're within 1 of and you control, and you can kick it 2d6, okay? So that's the reason you're taking this guy, but aside from that, he's complete and utter bin. So I'm giving him a 2 out of 5 as well. Alright, so let's look at Mancrushers. Sorry, just before we do that. So I just did a little damage comparison graph. So more or less what I was saying, like, against high armor, you'll find that the Beast Smasher is pretty strong. And then the Gatebreaker is also pretty good against high armor. And then other than that, the Warstomper is like quite a lot better than the other units. It's like King Brodd and Warstomper do the most damage against basically 5-up save and up, and then from the 4-up save, then the Beast Smasher, the Gatebreaker, and the Warstomper get pretty close. Yeah, so that's the situation. Alright. Okay, Mancrushers. Okay, so these guys have a lot of rules too. So just start off with points. The 450 for 3, 150 points for 1. Either way, they can't be reinforced, and either way, they only count as 1 for battle line, okay? Now, the other Mancrushers, the mega-gargants are also battle line, so you're going to get 3 battle line with this army unless you take Kragnos and Incarnate, in case you need to be a bit careful about your composition, okay? Cool, so either way, they can't be reinforced, so you can't take units of 2 Mancrusher Gargants anymore, and you also can't take a unit of 6 for 900 points, which would be baller, but you can't do that. Okay, so the 8 move with 12 wounds and a 5-up save. So, yeah, for 450 points, you're getting 36 wounds with a 5-up save, compared to the 35 wounds with a 4-up save of the Warstomper. So, they are worse defensively. And their bravery is 7, which is mean once you lose 2, you can lose the other one if you roll a 6. So, I mean, it's not that likely, but obviously a major bummer if you do. The big change here is they can have a champion now, who gets +1 to the club attacks. But only he can issue monstrous rampages. Yeah, that's what that does. And if you carry out the stop monstrous rampage, you basically add 1 to the mortals caused per the Mancrusher Gargants in the unit. So if you have 3, you're doing D3 plus 2. Okay. Now, their attack profile. Now they have the throwing rocks attack on their profile. It used to just be 1 unit, which your general would pick. But now it's all of them. It's pretty crappy, but it's 4 attacks. 1 attack, force to hit, freeze to wound, rend -1 D3. They got a massive club, which is 4 attacks, 3s to hit, 3s to wound, -1 rend 2 damage, a headbutt, 1 attack, force to hit, 3s to wound, -3 rend 4 damage, and a kick, which is 3s, -2 D3. So pretty swingy attacks all across the board. The massive club used to be 10 attacks and had to be damage 1, but now it's 4 attacks with damage 2, so it's a little bit of a nerf overall, especially against -1 damage, which there's a lot of in the meta. But yeah, that's what that does. They have a few special rules, so keep up. They get run and charge wholly within 15 of a mega-gargant, so they can basically keep up with the mega-gargants. Mega-gargants move 10 now, so these guys are actually a bit faster than the mega-gargants. They have stomp and charge. After a model in this unit makes a charge move, you roll a dice on a 2-up. This roll brackets, but obviously the whole unit doesn't bracket, just the model. You do D3 mortal wounds, okay? So it's fine. Just some impact hits. Stuff them in the bag, same as all the other stuffs. You roll the dice after they pile in. If it's double their wound characteristic or over, then they're slain. And then Timber, the same thing as before, but it's you pick a point within 3, and it's does D3 mortals to units within 2. And all Gargants, including Megas, are immune to this. Okay, so overall, how do we feel? Well, my main problem with these guys is against -1 damage, it's just terrible. Yeah, and there's sort of no redeeming factor here. Because against Nighthaunt or something, right, you're going to have 12 attacks at 1 damage. Whereas they used to be 30 attacks at damage 1. So, like, against Nighthaunt, your output has been halved. Now, if you put him in Bounty Hunters, that's going to remedy that a little bit. Yeah, and it would make them like 12 attacks at damage 2, which sort of puts them at the point of similarity with the other one. It gets -1 damage. And there's other ways to buff the damage too, but it still hurts me personally that it's rend 1, because it's just unlikely to go through a lot of things at the moment. It feels like in the meta at the moment, you really got to have rend 2 to have even remotely reliable damage output. So the fact it's 3/3 is -1 rend is just a little rough in my mind. I'm not going to give these guys better than a 3 out of 5 just based on this war scroll. But there are some good rules in this book, and maybe they can work. I'm not convinced, but maybe they can work. To me, it's a little bit questionable that they gave them a little bit of a damage nerf in my mind. I think it should have been 5 attacks on the club. That would have been fair enough. Because right now it's like a Trog profile, which just seems a little bit rough for 150 points. So there we go. All right. And yeah, just a comparison with the mega-gargants. The damage is like slightly more than the best mega-gargant, which is the Warstomper, but it brackets much worse. But takes buffs better. Like, obviously, +1 attack is better when you've got 3 models with 3 separate profiles than 1 model with 3 separate profiles, right? You're going to get an extra 6 attacks, effectively. So they take buffs better, but they bracket worse because, you know, once a model dies, you lose 1/3 of your damage output, whereas something like the Warstomper doesn't really bracket too much, because as long as your opponent has 10 models there, then you're going to get the full amount of attacks, even if you lose the bonus, which you get at the start of the bracket. Okay? So that's them. Alright. So, yeah, now the question to keep in mind is, do we care about doing more damage? The answer to that is yes, but not if it costs durability, which the Mancrushers do. So that's the problem there. Maybe they're alright, but I'm still a little bit doubtful. So let's see maybe what the allegiance abilities have given them. And just before we get into that, I've got to talk about the core battalions. So, I guess these are part of the Legion's abilities. So these haven't changed. Basically, I mean, you can kind of ignore the Footsockers one in my mind. It'd only be like part of it if you're going to take like the Warstomper and 3 units of Mancrushers build, which I think you probably just put in Bounty Hunters anyway. But you could make it a 1-drop if you want. But I mean, you can do that with Battle Regiment anyway. It's a bit strange. Otherwise, the Bosses of Stomp one is good for getting your extra artifacts. So if you got 4 mega-gargants, then you're going to get 3 artifacts. So straight away, you're going to think of a build where you've got King Brodd, who's unique, so obviously he can't take artifacts, and then you got 3 mega-gargants with artifacts. Okay, that's solid. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about the generic artifacts and command traits. So, unlike other new books, the subfactions here actually do have individualized command traits and artifacts, but there is a common list, and that's what this looks like. So, your Monstrously Tough gives you +5 wounds on your general, not bad. Furious Temper once per battle fight at top bracket, bit meh, but might be alright. On some of them, the bracket a bit harder, like a Gatebreaker. And then +1 to charge rolls. It's a big range, but not a fantastic effect. I think of those, the +5 wounds is definitely the best. Artifacts, your Stomp gets 3 rend, 3 attacks, damage 3. That's kind of just alright. The Glowy Shield, rend 1 from your opponent gets to convert to rend 0, and 6 to save, reflect back immortal. This one's pretty solid. There's not a huge amount of rend 1 in the meta, but if there is, then you know, like, I mean, there's some rend 1. That's not true. There's some rend 1, but it's not amazing, obviously, because if your opponent got rend 2, it doesn't do anything. So it's not like reducing rend by 1. It's just if they have rend 1, you ignore it. Scavenger Wake, once per battle start a combat phase, you pick 1 enemy within 3. And you roll a number of dice equal to the models in that unit, which caps at 10, unfortunately, and 4-up does 1 mortal wound. Would be a great horde clear if it didn't have the cap, but otherwise, it's just alright. And then the Ambertone Totem is run and charge, which is not terrible, considering mega-gargants have got a bit slower, but still a little bit limited in application in my mind. Just because the army is not that offensively focused. They might change, but in my mind, you want to be looking for the defensive artifacts here, right? So the Monstrously Tough and the Glowy Shield are probably the best. Okay, so let's talk about the subfactions now. So we got the first one here, which I think is the worst one, unfortunately, which is Take a Tribe. You get +5 to the Mighty of Makes Variety of value for Kraken Eaters and Mancrusher Gargants. Now, some might argue those are the 2 worst War Scrolls in the book. I like Mancrushers more than that, but this is to add to all mega-gargants, so the fact it's only the Kraken now sucks. It's only 5 now as well. It used to be 10. Not very good. Command ability. Okay, this one looks really good, right? Because I'm seeing an extra damage. Okay, so issued by General, start of the combat phase to a Mancrusher Gargant unit. Until the end of that phase, add 1 to the damage characteristic of that unit's weapons. That target an enemy unit with an artifact of power or unique. It's so good until you get to that last bit, right? And it's +1 damage. Oh no, it's not good. It's really just so specific. No. Command traits. Your general can take 2 artifacts. I mean, the artifacts are better in this book than the than the command traits, but it's still whatever. Extremely intimidating. Enemies with 6 cannot receive Inspiring Presence or Rally. You've already got that within 3, so that's not that amazing. While being Tentacle at the start of the combat phase, pick a hero within 3. On a 4-up, that hero takes D3 mortal wounds and has Strike Last in that phase. That one's actually quite good because it's not once per game. So I actually kind of like that one a lot. I don't know if it's going to make you take takers, but I really like this one. Glowy Lantern. In your hero phase, the bearer can summon an endless spell with double range, but they don't become a wizard, so how can I take an endless spell? So, I mean, you're going to take Arcane Tome anyway, so this is fine, but it's just not... No. Okay, so I don't like this. I don't like this tribe. It doesn't have good gear, and the battle traits are not good, so this is not one you would take in my mind. Okay, Breaker tribe. It's pretty similar. So +1 damage to Mancrushers, targeting an enemy in a garrison or wholly in a terrain feature. It's the same thing the Gatebreaker has, but Mancrushers get it too. you can have a command ability for 3d6 charge on the Mancrushers, so they could run and charge and then charge 3d6. Obviously pretty good. And then Fierce Loathing, Mancrushers and Gatebreakers get +1 to hit against one of these choices. The range has gotten a lot smaller, but basically it's the ones you're gonna the choices make more sense here. So Hero Wizard, Totem or unit with command models, and then War Machine / Monster. So I think you probably would go for Totem or unit with command models at the moment. Historically, you would have gone for Hero and Wizard, but I think in this meta, probably Totem or unit with command models, because a lot of heroes and stuff are totems now too. So yeah, I think pretty good. Command traits, General can pick a second Fierce Loathing. Not great. Sees Red. Yeah, he can use the top row of the damage table if an enemy general is within 3 of a defensible terrain feature or an enemy unit wholly on a terrain feature. That's not bad, because he does bracket like badly compared to the other ones, but yeah, it's still a little bit limited in terms of how he actually gets it. Artifacts are both quite bad. The Great Wrecker 6s to hit with the Fort Wrecker Flare do D3 mortal wounds in addition would be great, but he's only 6 attacks. And the King Sword Cowl +1 to wound if you're targeting a hero with the weapon. It's just okay. All right. So I'm giving this one a 3 out of 5. Like, there's a bunch of like sort of alright abilities here. +1 to hit, 3d6 charge, but it's not all like, you know, completely world breaking, is it? It's just like solidly decent. Yeah. Okay, Smasher Tribe. So battle traits. So Mancrushers can do the same thing as the big dude with the club here, right? Who's the Beast Smasher mega-gargant, who remember has to be a general. Okay, so Mancrushers can put it all on red like he does if within 3 of an enemy monster. Club goes to 1 attack with 46 damage. This is actually good, this one, because it's so the mega-gargant was so his profile, remember, was 3 attacks, 3s 2s, -3 rend 5 damage. Okay, the Mancrusher's profile, each of them is 4 attacks, 3s 3s, -1 2 damage. Okay, so the potential damage of a Mancrusher is going to be 8 damage with that, and 46 is obviously like a lot better than that, right? It's like 14 on average. So yeah, I think most of the time you're going to do this, actually, especially if you have some buffs to make sure you can guarantee it going through. You're going to look to buff the rend with Brodd, because like rend 1 on the Mancrushers is not good, but yeah, definitely pretty good, I think. Okay, and the command ability is Start a Combat. Your general can only issue it, but the Mancrushers can fight on top bracket and pile it on death. Okay, so really good if you've got like, you can foresee a scenario, right, where your opponent's coming in with a really big monster guy, and like you need to kill this guy, but he's going to kill all of your Mancrushers, like it's like Scarbrand or something, right? You just put this on your unit, and you go, I'm going to pile in on death, and I'm going to hit you with that 46 attack, and like one of them's going to go through, and probably one of them will just one-hit Scarbrand, right? So, yeah, pretty good, I think. Okay, command traits. Each time an enemy monster is slain by this model's attacks, roll a number of dice equal to its wounds. On a 5-up, this model heals a wound. Yeah, like, not bad, but I think probably most of the time you're better just going +5 wounds command trait. And then once per battle at the start of any phase, he gets a 4-up ward against mortals. This would be decent, but most of the time that armies do mortals, it's like separated between phases, right? Like Seraphon, for instance, does mortal wounds in a lot of different phases. Nurgle is the same, right? Like flyers go in the charge phase, do mortals, and then in the disease phase, the battle shock phase, they do mortals. So it's difficult to get the maximum value out of this, but I guess I could foresee a scenario where this is useful, I guess. Artifacts, Shatterer. If the modified wound characteristic for an attack made by the bearer's Menhir Club that targets an enemy hero, monster, or war machine is a 6, you ignore positive modifiers to save characteristic for that model for the rest of the battle. This is actually pretty good, because like this happens before you'd actually like roll the saves for the attack. So like, let's say you got like 3 attacks go through, you like hit with all 3 of them, you wound all 3 of them, one of them is a 6, you're going to have 15 damage just go through, because it's like rend 3. So if your opponent has a 3-up save, then they've only got a 6-up save. So yeah, just if you got this, just make sure you roll your club attacks before your feet and hands, obviously. And then he's got the Mantle of Tusks and Horns, which lets him call a War. Hey, I'm an Orc fan. I'm cool with that. And it basically gives you +1 attacks for Sons of Behemat units, which is great with him, obviously, because he's got 3 attacks on a really swingy weapon, so getting extra attack there is, like, really solid. Great for Mancrushers, so you can see yourself calling, like, a War, and then you can do the Pile-In on Death. So maybe you go in with 3 Mancrushers with +1 attack. You attack, you hit something, and then that thing hits you back and kills you, and then you're going to get basically 6 Mancrushers worth of attacks with +1 attack. Okay? So I think this is a really solid tribe. There's a range of abilities here, and I think the command traits and artifacts are pretty good. So I'd give this one a 4 out of 5. I'm a fan. And then we have Stomper tribe, which is probably the best one. Yeah, for a number of reasons. But first of all, the fact that the Warstomper has to be the general is much less of a restriction here because he's really good, right? Just a good war scroll. So the battle traits here, after your general issues a command to a friendly Mancrusher Gargant unit, you can issue to any other Mancrusher Gargant units without a command point being spent. That is a ridiculously strong ability. It's just a whether or not of how many Mancrusher Gargants you're going to take, but that's obviously insane. Like if you take, let's say for example, you take 6 units of 1, and you can do like 6 redeploys when your opponent moves, or you can do 6 Unleash Hell when your opponent charges. Heaps of stuff you can do. Good command ability here. Start a shooting phase. You can add +1 attack to throwing rocks for Mancrushers. Obviously, if you have 6 of them, just line them up. 6 of them get +1 attack. So you got 12 shots, Force 3s, -1 rend, D3 damage. But with the other ability here, they get +1 damage against 10 to 19 models and +2 damage for 20. The 21 is probably never going to happen, but the 10 to 19 could happen. But you want it to be a unit of 3, right? Because if you're attacking with like 6 units of 1, like the first one might lop off the bonus. So this is kind of encouraging you to put a unit of 3. So the temptation with the first battle trait is to go full MSU, but I think you might balance it out by going like 1, 3, and 3 1s, or like 2 units of 3, stuff like that. Okay, so the command traits, you can reroll both parts of the hurled body rolls. That's whatever. Eager for the fight, 3d6 charge. Nice. This one I used to take. Okay, and then Club of the First Oak. In your hero phase, he heals 1 wound, but he has a 5-up ward while he has 25 or more wounds allocated to him, which is awesome. It's really good if you take the monstrously tough thing with this, because then you have 40 wounds, so you're going to have 15 wounds worth of 5-up ward. Obviously, it's not as good as just having a 5-up ward, but we understand why that's been taken away. Yeah. And then Mantle of Destroyer, yeah, friendly units solid win 12 have a bravery characteristic of 10. That's not going to be taken ever. Yeah, this guy's obviously, the first one you're taking, I think, Monstrously Tough and Club of the First Oak, and then the second one's going to take Arcane Tome Flaming Weapon. That's the setup you're going to see with these guys. Really solid tribe. I have to give it 5 out of 5. I think this is the best one in the book, and you're going to see the most. Okay? Alright, let's just quickly talk about the battle tactics and grand strategies. I spent a lot of time on this in the Tzeentch review, but this time I'm not sure how good they are, so we'll see how we go. So Grand Strats, Brodd's Revenge, you can read it there, but basically this one's not that great because you need to both have Brodd alive and have gotten all 3 of the prayers off. So if you like fail one, you might be trying to like get it off when you don't want to do that one, so not that great. Make the land tremble. You gotta run or make a charge move in every battle round with a friendly unit. Difficult if you get stuck in combat. I've never been a fan. This is what the old one used to be. I've never been a fan. On the warpath, when the battle ends, you complete this grand strat if every friendly unit on the battlefield is within enemy territory. I think this is the best of those from here, but still difficult because like if you're going first in round 5, you're going to want to keep something back, maybe to hold your own objective, and then you lose this. So there might be a bit of a points trade-off, which you never want with grand strats. So yeah, I think difficult. And then show them who's boss. You kill the guy with the highest wounds characteristic in your opponent's army, and your general has not been slain. I think this one's quite difficult. Okay. Cool. Just one thing with that actually is it has to be your chosen general. Okay, so King Brodd won't count. Yeah, so it's got to be whatever you chose, like the Warstomper or whatever. Yeah. Okay, and then battle tactics. that's mine. You kick an objective that's not within your territory into your territory. That's quite easy, obviously, and it's one reason to think about taking a Kraken, even though his War Scroll is otherwise pretty bad. Wrecking Crew, you get it if an enemy faction terrain feature was demolished this turn. This one's terrible because it's on a 3-up, right? So you're never going to hinge a battle tactic on a 3-up unless you're in like the worst scenario ever. And if you are in the worst scenario ever, the probability that your opponent's faction terrain feature is sitting in your face is like really low. So this one's just not good. Man Skittles, again, mega unreliable, right? Like you got to kill an enemy model with the first half of the ability, and then an enemy battle line unit. You need to pick it for the second half, and they suffer any mortal wounds. So basically, you're hinging it on a 4-up. So again, you're not going to do this one. Fury of the Titans, you complete this tactic if you carry out the Beast Grapple, Earth-Shaking Roar, and Colossal Slam monstrous rampages this turn. You're going to do this one 100%. It's one reason to think about taking 4 mega-gargants, because this will become easy to do. You don't have to roll the 3-up. In this case, you just have to say you're doing it, and then you get it. So this one's really solid to do, I think. Splat, pick one enemy hero. If you kill it with the throwing rocks, a hurled debris, or a hurled boulder, then you can achieve this. But unless you're running heaps of Mancrushers in Stompers, I think this one's pretty hard to do. And then Colossal Violence, if you basically carry out the Titanic Jewel monstrous rampage with the mega-gargant, and he kills the enemy monster that was targeted, then you get this battle tactic. Not bad, but maybe a little bit difficult to actually pull off. It's like, I think the best scenario is when your opponent's got something that's like really low wounds remaining, and then you can kind of just farm this battle tactic a bit, but then you have to keep the mega-gargant in combat. So, I mean, it's just something to think about, isn't it? It's decent. Okay, so I got a couple lists here. So we have the first one, which is a Smash the Tribe one. And it's pretty simple. It's Brodd, a Beast Smasher mega-gargant with Seas Greens to the 4-up ward against mortals. I might change that, but that's just something to think about. And then he's got the War artifact, and then 2 units of 3 Mancrushers. I think this is just pretty solid. If you're gonna, I think you probably might consider about dropping 3 Mancrushers for a Warstomper with Arcane Tome Flaming Weapon. But if you wanted to try Mancrushers, I think this is not a bad way to do it. You could have one unit as like, this is the unit you're going to prioritize. You put all the buffs on them, and then the other unit is going to be like your pile in an attack on death unit. Okay, so it's quite good because you kind of get to attack with both units, or you can just go in once with a big unit, like smash into some Bladeghast Revenants, kill a bunch of them, pile in an attack on death, and kill a bunch more. Not bad. I think this is an interesting one to try out, but it is a little bit more fragile than some of the other armies I've got in here, so that's something to consider. Here's a Stomper Tribe one. We've got basically the setup I was talking about before. I've got Master of Magic and Arcane Tome here, which is probably, I mean, it's I think it's good personally because you want to get Mystic Shield off, but if you want to go the 5-up ward and 40 wounds, that's also fine too. And then basically 6 Mancrushers, but you got 3 and then 3 ones. Some of them in Bounty Hunters and then one of them out. You could take an Endless Spell here. I don't know which one you would take. I guess probably Ravanax Gnashing Jaws is probably the best. But I like having the big Triumph bit as well. The reason I do is because I've gone King Brodd, right? I have basically a number of points left, so I've got 70 points Triumph bit, and then I can take bosses of the Stomp, so I can get an extra Triumph. So we basically got 2+1 wound Triumph here, which is really nice because both King Brodd and the Mancrushers wound on 3s, as well as the Warstomper mega-gargant. So on the turn I need to turn it on, I can with the Inspired Triumphs here. So I think pretty solid. All right. Now you might be asking, are we whiffing the Mancrusher copium here a little bit? And I think the answer to that question is probably, unfortunately. I still think the list you're going to see is like something like this, right? So Stompers with King Brodd, a Warstomper with that loadout I was talking about before. Sorry, I realized he's got Flaming Weapon. Doesn't have Flaming Weapon. Monstrously Tough, Club of the First Oak, okay? And the other guy has Arcane Tome Flaming Weapon, and then your Beast Smasher mega-gargant, this could be a Gatebreaker too, has Glowy Shield for the extra defensive thing. So basically, all of this stuff is just kitted out to be as defensible as possible, as defensively oriented as possible, and then we've got, King Brodd in there for the extra rend, and then also the heal and just the general better stats. So that's my Battletome review. We've made it to the end. Now my final verdict: I do think the book is better than it was before. Obviously the objective capturing has gotten a bit worse, but they've gained a whole bunch of other things. I think one of the main ones is that Terra turns off Inspiring Presence now. That makes them like quite a different army to play against. For like a horde army, because otherwise you could kind of just like lob your stuff at them and they couldn't do anything about it. I think Mancrushers are still a little bit questionable in my mind, and yeah, Gatebreakers have gone from God tier to bin tier, unfortunately. I think the playstyle is still a little bit done, but at least there's like some humorous, like monstrous actions and like a few funny rules in there. And there's definitely way more things to do in a turn now. Like you've got a prayer to do. You didn't used to have anything in your hero phase, so now you got a prayer. I mean, you've obviously got Arcane Tome, so you could like, so you're doing a prayer, you're doing a spell. We're playing Age of Sigmar now. You got some shooting with your Mancrushers. You've got heaps of monstrous rampages, and then you've got an interesting combat phase with a few activation war mechanics in there, a few pick out like interesting, pick out models from units and stuff like that. So I think a bit more to do. So I do like the book. I think there's some stuff in here that like I think the Mancrushers probably just needed a bit more damage, because the damage difference isn't that big between them and the mega-gargants. And I do think the Warstomper probably should have taken a hit, given that the Gatebreaker did. And in my mind, they weren't that different in terms of like power level. So I think if the Warstomper's got his current War Scroll, he kind of needs to go up, I think, like 40 points to be the same point as the Kraken. Yeah, so that's what I think. Thank you very much for watching the video. Please check out the Patreon if you're interested in receiving some like other content and like coaching style stuff. Yeah, I'll see you guys on the next video. Thank you very much.